Good evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. I'm Errol Lewis. One day after his historic win, Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani was looking ahead, announcing the leaders of a transition team that he says will help him keep his promises of running an affordable city in the future. Our Dan Rivley was with the mayor-elect today and joins us now with tonight's top story. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, Errol. So, of course, during the campaign, the issue of Mamdani's experience was litigated, his relative lack of experience in government and in his own personal life. But now, as mayor-elect, he is building a transition team that relies heavily on experienced government hands to see his agenda become reality.
New Yorkers deserve a government that they can trust.
The transition for Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani began with the announcement in Queens of a team to help him staff his administration.
When our city celebrates the inauguration of a new administration, let us also celebrate a new era for our city.
Several of them are veterans of City Hall. Their resumes indicate an attention on low-income New Yorkers, social services, and containing corporate power. Alana Leopold, who was an advisor to former Mayor Bill de Blasio, will direct the transition. The co-chairs, Lena Khan, who was a regulator in the Biden White House known for opposing big corporate mergers, Maria Torres Springer, a former top deputy for Mayor Eric Adams, Grace Bonilla, a former Bloomberg administration official who is now chief of the anti-poverty nonprofit United Way of New York City, and Melanie Hartzog, a deputy mayor in de Blasio City Hall. But Mamdani pledged that the team will also address other issues important to New Yorkers.
These will be the leaders of our transition, and also this transition will expand and extend beyond any one specific set of issue areas. So the topics of education and public safety continue to be of immense importance.
Earlier in the day, Mamdani was on New York One.
New Yorkers deserve a city hall that is not only dedicated, but is also going to deliver on actually addressing the cost of living crisis.
Meanwhile, down in Miami, Florida,
if you want to see what congressional Democrats wish to do to America, just look at the result of yesterday's election in New York, where their party installed a communist as the mayor of the largest city in the nation.
President Donald Trump sought to make New York's incoming socialist mayor the Democratic Party's mascot. Back in Queens, Mamdani addressed New Yorkers who did not vote for him, in particular Jewish New Yorkers who felt targeted by the way he expressed his anti-Israel views.
I look forward to working with Jewish leaders across this city, whether they be elected officials, whether they be rabbis, whether they be community leaders, to deliver on the promise of not just protecting Jewish New Yorkers, but celebrating and cherishing them in this same city.
Mamdani said in the coming days he will also announce his picks for his deputies and commissioners. Errol.
And so the mayor-elect also talked about raising money to sort of make all of this happen. It sounds like they're kind of building the plane as it's taken off.
Yes, one of the common themes of that news conference, which was wide-ranging, took questions from local reporters here in New York, national reporters, international. But one of the common themes of his answers was always, I'm looking forward to speaking with Mayor Adams. I'm looking forward to speaking with NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch, looking forward to speaking with Jewish leaders, looking forward to speaking with Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. So those were a lot of the questions presented to him of who he's going to reach out to during this transition period to get a sense of how he's going to run his administration. One of the themes he kept coming back to was keeping an open door. You don't have to agree with everyone. He's not going to mince words and even criticize Mayor Adams by name, but the door is always open regardless of your position. The goal has to be to help New Yorkers as the way he sees it.
President Trump, of course, making those comments and getting a lot of boos for Zohran Mamdani. Did the president say anything further about whether or not he's going to disrupt operations and life here in New York City?
I think the way President Trump always does something like that in other cities is when there's a vacuum. So we saw it with the Canal Street raids, when you allow the proliferation of the selling of illegal goods by recently arrived migrants who have disputable authority to be here. The NYPD lets that happen. It's basically handing Homeland Security investigations a way to come in and do a raid. So that is definitely something Trump has signaled. There's always the threat of National Guard troops here in New York under Trump's authority. And then, of course, the issue of federal funding. We just saw with President Trump trying to pull funding from a New York City school over Title IX issues of civil rights for women. So, look, that's the levers of power Trump has.
Okay, thanks very much, Dan. For Zohran Mamdani to achieve his history-making victory, he brought together a new coalition of voters, including young voters and progressives, and of course the South Asian vote. Our Courtney Gross has been crunching the numbers and joins us now with a look at where Mamdani won in the city and the areas that he lost. Good evening.
Good evening, Errol. And of course, there is a lot of data to crunch, but thinking about this from a historical perspective, the last couple of elections, general elections we've had where a Democratic mayor has won, usually that Democrat, like Mayor Eric Adams or Bill de Blasio, gets about 66% of the vote or 73% of the vote. In this case, Zohran Mamdani got a little over 50% of the vote. Nonetheless, he got more than 1 million voters, just a smaller percentage there than his previous Democratic mayors. We take a look at where all that vote came from. While some candidacies barely got off the launching pad, Zohran Mamdani's skyrocketed into history.
To every New Yorker in Kensington and Midwood and Hunts Point, know this. This city is your city, and this democracy is yours too.
But Mamdani did not win all of those neighborhoods. A look at turnout with maps provided by the City University of New York's Graduate Center shows Mamdani was sent to City Hall thanks to voters across the city, with some of his strongest areas in gentrified areas of Brooklyn. Areas where Mamdani won are seen in blue, Cuomo in green, like Fort Greene.
I live in a rent-stabilized apartment right over there. You can see it over there. Yeah, so day one, I would hope you can accomplish that.
It was a combination of the white, liberal, progressive areas that tend to vote for the WFP endorsed candidates and have many times in the past, and enough of the rest of the Democratic coalition in terms of the African American neighborhoods, the Latino neighborhoods, stuck with the candidate of the party to get him over the finish line.
Mamdani was able to win over parts of the city he had lost to Governor Andrew Cuomo in their June Democratic primary. That included areas with predominantly black voters in Brooklyn and in Southeast Queens, an area that had been seen as Cuomo's base. Mamdani also flipped the Bronx, where Cuomo won in June.
The Mamdani campaign definitely brought out different sort of new groups into the electorate. And I would include young people in that category too.
He know our suffering. Our New Yorker people, we are suffering a lot of. He tell us that he will be give us bus free, our grocery will be cheaper.
Other energized voters included the city's Muslim population. CUNY examined districts where there were concentrations of Muslim voters, and 60% of them went for Mamdani. The same could definitely not be said for Jewish voters. Examining areas of the city where there are a large number of Jewish voters found almost 58% of the vote there went for Cuomo. It's a sign Mamdani may still have work to do with these soon-to-be constituents. And some of the other metrics analyzed by CUNY in these maps here could be predicted, for instance, of districts that had a large percentage of renters. Mamdani won those districts by about 57% of the vote. Meanwhile, districts with a lot of homeowners, Errol, Cuomo won.
Well, yeah, you could see something like that where, because so much of the message was aimed at renters, it wouldn't stand to reason that renters would give them a lot of their votes. Cuomo, on the other hand, didn't have anything comparable that you could tie to a particular geography, right?
I mean, not necessarily, but he did speak, I think, to you even about property tax reform. And, you know, towards the end of his campaign, he really had much more of a Republican message. So people would align that type of messaging with perhaps a property tax rebate or, you know, help on your property taxes. That's going to be a more comfortable message for people who own homes and pay those property taxes. But obviously with Mamdani, the message being so overwhelmingly about freezing the rent, it's so obvious that clearly renters would want to vote for him, thinking that perhaps, you know, if they live in a rent-stabilized apartment, that their rent's going to be frozen. I mean, even just speaking to some voters on the streets today in Southeast Queens, you heard from that voter there who said, well, I'm going to get free buses, so I voted for him.
Okay, stands to reason. Thanks very much, Courtney. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, what could Andrew Cuomo have done differently? It's what's on the mind of many after last night's loss. We're going to break it down in a report ahead. Later on tonight, we will head down to Puerto Rico, where lawmakers are gathering for the annual Somos El Futuro conference. Stay with us. Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Andrew Cuomo has been involved in New York politics for more than 40 years. But after last night's defeat, could this be the end of his long career? Our Ayanna Harry followed Cuomo almost every day on the campaign trail and joins us now with a look at that. Good evening, Ayanna.
Good evening, Errol. As he delivered a concession speech, Andrew Cuomo was spirited and at times he was even defiant, seeming to leave the door open to a potential another new chapter in his long political career.
We got up off the mat after the primary, and we made it a real race.
Former Governor Andrew Cuomo is now at a career crossroads after his attempted political comeback fell short.
This campaign was the right fight to wage, and I am proud of what we did.
9 months ago, with his daughters by his side, Cuomo made his return to public life, launching his bid for City Hall years after he was a rising star in the Democratic Party. The son of a former governor ascended from federal housing secretary.
I expect him to be a very strong voice for America's cities.
To state attorney general, and eventually Andrew Cuomo became governor himself.
Thank you.
During nearly 11 years as the state's top executive, Cuomo legalized gay marriage, instituted several criminal justice reforms, and decriminalized marijuana. During the COVID-19 pandemic, his daily briefings were broadcast across the country.
You'll turn that valve very slowly, reopening the economy.
That time in office quickly came to a halt. Cuomo resigned under mounting political pressure in 2021. A report commissioned by the state attorney general found Cuomo sexually harassed at least 11 women. It would be more than 3 years before Cuomo would return to the spotlight as a candidate for mayor.
We know that today our New York City is in trouble.
Despite early dominance in the polls, Cuomo finished second in the June Democratic primary, admitting to New York won.
There wasn't an aggressive campaign, and that was a mistake, and playing it safe was a mistake.
Jumping back into the general election race as an independent candidate, Cuomo tried to pull together a coalition that would also include Republicans. After conceding the race to Mamdani Tuesday night, there is one question Cuomo has yet to answer. What's next?
This campaign was to contest the philosophies that are shaping the Democratic Party, the future of this city, and the future of this country.
So does Andrew Cuomo's political legacy end here? We could see Cuomo take similar steps as to what he did right after the Democratic primary. Take some time to assess the numbers and also look at some upcoming races and see if he believes that any might be a good fit for himself. Errol?
I mean, one thing to also keep in mind is that he doesn't necessarily, quote unquote, need a job, right? His disclosures indicated that he made over nearly $5 million just last year.
That's correct. So Andrew Cuomo could, if he wants to, continue to have that consulting business, innovative strategies, and then also weigh into public matters and speak out whenever he wants to, so that he'd kind of have still that influence, but not have to worry about running for office.
Okay, we shall see. Thanks very much, Ayanna. With Zohran Mamdani's victory, Mayor Adams' days are officially numbered. But that's not stopping the current mayor from pushing into new policies. Adams says that he still has some work to do before departing Gracie Mansion on January 1st. Our Kelly Mena joins us now to tell us all about it. Good evening, Kelly.
Good evening, Errol. And as one door opens, another closes. And that's really what is awaiting Mayor Adams. He's the current mayor and still has some plans up his sleeves as his term comes to an end.
I want to say congratulations to Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani.
It was in a brief video message Tuesday night that the current mayor accepted the results of the election. Wearing a white shirt and sporting a serious face, he congratulated his successor. Zohran Mamdani's win marks the beginning of the end to Adams' one term. By Wednesday morning, the 110th mayor was already in transition mode.
I wanted Cuomo to win, yes. But again, he's the pilot now. And all of my criticisms, all of my dislike of his policies, all the things that the DSA has done, to me that's not significant. He's the mayor now. And any mayor is going to get my 100% support because New York can't fail.
But Adams says he's not done yet. On Wednesday morning, he offered 2,900 city employees who were terminated for not getting vaccinated their jobs back. The mayor even revealed his plan for a more accessible city.
I have a whole lot of things I want to do. One of the biggest things I'm going to do is to introduce a language inclusive city. We have technology now that no matter what language you speak, you should be able to walk into an agency and have a conversation to get the delivery of services.
With the closing of Adams' chapter also comes the mass exodus of top officials. Fire Commissioner Robert Tucker is headed for the exit door. Tucker tendered his resignation hours after Mamdani became mayor-elect. He departs on the 19th. Kaz Daughtry, the deputy mayor of public safety, also seems to be leaving early, according to the Daily News.
Some are going to depart now. Some people departed under me. Some people said I don't want to serve when Eric became the mayor. And some people are going to say the same for Zohran. He can't take that personal. I didn't take it personal. People want to serve under certain administrations.
As for what the mayor does next, that remains a mystery.
Individuals from various parts of the globe have reached out to me and stated, we like what you've done in New York. We're having issues in our country around public safety, around education, around housing. And so I have a lot of opportunities that I'm looking at to help cities across the country and across the globe. Do you know how good it feels that I don't have to get up and worry about a 12-hour day, that I can spend time with who I want, that I can just enjoy, like I could travel again?
And we know the mayor loves to travel. Mayor Adams says he hasn't spoken to Mamdani just yet when we spoke to him earlier today, but he said he plans to invite him to Gracie Mansion for a meeting. The mayor's term is up on December 31st, Daryl.
All of this has to happen very, very quickly. We're talking about 57 days until the new mayor will be sworn in.
Yeah, that's right. Not a lot of time. We obviously heard today that transition team from Zohran Mamdani obviously getting the gears going. The mayor says they're planning to put together some sort of a book, a guidebook about their policies, why they implemented those policies, how they want to see them continue forward, and whether Mamdani chooses to go forward with it or not, it would just be a helpful guide for him.
All right. Thanks very much, Kelly. We are going to take a short break now. When we come back, our Bernadette Hogan is in Puerto Rico right now for the annual political conference attended by nearly every New York elected official. We'll bring you a report from San Juan in 2 minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back to Inside City Hall. We're going to head down to Puerto Rico now, where nearly every major New York politician will be spending the weekend at the annual political conference, Somos El Futuro. Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani and Governor Kathy Hochul are both scheduled to travel to the island tomorrow, and our Bernadette Hogan is there right now. She joins us from San Juan with the very latest. Good evening, Bernadette.
Good evening, Errol. And this is the political conference that officially kicks off the next year of legislating and negotiating that happens, of course, after an election. And this is a pretty big election, obviously, because just a year ago, I was down here interviewing the mayoral candidates, one of them being Zohran Mamdani, who was at the bottom of the pack. And obviously, after last night's results, that's not the case, and he is now the mayor-elect. So far, what I've seen are several elected officials, union leaders, lobbyists, consultants, you name it, at a packed conference, the start of the conference. They're kicking off with remarks right now. In the room next to me, State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli. I saw Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez. I also spoke with former Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr., who longtime borough president in the Bronx, but then also a one-time mayoral candidate. He had endorsed Andrew Cuomo in the primary, nobody for the general election. And when I asked him what he thought about last night's results and any advice he might have for Zohran Mamdani, especially given the criticism that he's very young, he's only held elected office for a couple of years, here's what Diaz Jr. had to say.
Look, because of his youthfulness, it was the reason why you had so much energy in this race. It's the reason why so many young people came out. And he also inspired intergenerationally. So you can't take that away from him. And no matter how, if you have the most experience or you know, if you're new to governing, The fact is that once you become mayor or governor, you have to have the right people around you, and you have to continue to have your doors open for those that necessarily weren't supportive of you. He has already shown to welcome that.
So the big thing, Zerrell, that I will be looking at down here this whole week during the conference is who exactly is the mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani meeting with? Does he have meetings with Governor Kathy Hochul? But then also those that are in elected office or maybe before had been in elected office to see if they'll be joining the new administration, working on the transition team. We know that a few names have been released earlier today as to who will be helping Zohran Mamdani shape his new mayoral administration. Errol?
Yeah, so the name of the game is access. So all of those lobbyists and most of those officials are going to want a word with the mayor-elect or somebody close to him to make sure that they've got a way to get messages to him about policies that they want, personnel choices that they might approve. It's really going to essentially be a transition weekend, I would imagine, a sort of a transition meeting.
Exactly. The name of the game is See and Be Seen. Behind me, over my shoulder, is one of the bars where many of these lobbyists congregate and try to get some face time with elected officials. Everybody's dressed down. I'm seeing a lot of peach, a lot of yellow, a lot of linen. But it really isn't a relaxing weekend, to be honest with you. It is a lot of quick closed-door meetings, some deal-making before the legislative session begins. And for Mamdani, it will be important for him to be making alliances with some that maybe did not support him throughout the course of this general election campaign. So it'll be very important to see who's here. I have actually, now that you mention it, I saw a couple people from the Adams administration, Sheriff Anthony Miranda. So some people will also be trying to hold on to their jobs, but in the case of Miranda, who I saw, Mamdani has already said he doesn't think he'll keep him in his position as sheriff. Errol?
Okay, a lot of networking going on over there at the bar. We'll let you get to it. Thank you, Bernadette. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back, we'll dive deeper into Mamdani's historic win across the 5 boroughs with an expert from the CUNY Graduate Center. Stay with us.
I speak of Yemeni bodega owners and Mexican abuelas, Senegalese taxi drivers and Uzbek nurses, Trinidadian line cooks and Ethiopian aunties. Yes, aunties. To every New Yorker in Kensington and Midwood and Hunts Point, know this. This city is your city, and this democracy is yours too.
Kensington, Midwood, Hunts Point. Welcome back to Inside City Hall. During Zohran Mamdani's nearly 30-minute victory speech last night, he touched on a variety of themes, such as the changing of the guard of the Democratic establishment and the power of immigrants in those neighborhoods and many more. He was talking to and about working-class New Yorkers in what you just heard, describing some of the members of the broad coalition that built his campaign leading up to the election. That includes immigrants of diverse backgrounds, as well as New Yorkers from the Bronx to Brooklyn and everywhere in between. A closer look at voter data shows that Mamdani did attract a lot of voters from all different parts of the city. Joining me now to break it down and talk about what the numbers might mean is Stephen Romilewski. He is the director of the CUNY Mapping Service. Welcome back to the program. Good to see you.
Thank you so much.
As usual, you turned it around in amazing speed. What kind of database are you working from? You just took the data straight from the Board of Elections?
Well, it's very much a team effort. It's myself, John Mollenkoff, our center director, colleagues that developed the maps, and John's analysis of the voter data was key behind all of that to enable us to filter the districts based on different characteristics of ethnicity or voting patterns or income, education, things like that, to really give New Yorkers a much fuller picture of what the election might mean.
Okay, let's take a look at Manhattan for the first cut. I found this very interesting. When you look at Manhattan, and Mamdani, if we can zoom in a little bit more, Mamdani won all of Manhattan as a whole, but if you look at green is Cuomo, blue is Mamdani, darker means sort of more intense support, lighter means they kind of split that particular area. And what I see there is on the east side, especially the upper east side, it looks like that is Cuomo country. He had a fair amount of support on the west side as well, but it looks like it was pretty much just blown out by Greenwich Village on the southern side, and certainly Harlem and Washington Heights to the north. Is that pretty much what happened here?
And there was big turnout in Manhattan, especially lower Manhattan, along with big areas of Brooklyn, and that really put Mamdani over the top.
Right, right. In fact, if we nudge over and we look in Brooklyn, in central Brooklyn in particular, really deep blue across a very, very broad swath of Brooklyn. It's very hard to overcome that kind of support when it's all, kind of bundled up that way. And it's hard to imagine what in that, I guess, the brownstone belt, you would call it. I'm looking at Bushwick, looking at Bed-Stuy and into Crown Heights and over into Park
and
Slope.
up through Greenpoint.
Yeah.
So not only was the share of vote support that he got in those areas really strong, but the turnout was off the charts, especially in that area. That's not the only place in the city. Midwood and Borough Park and Manhattan, as we mentioned, but that part of the city, the turnout was like 2 or 3 times what it was in 2021. The share of support that he got in that area this year was about the same as what Adams got in 2021, but the number of voters was really
Right, I noticed that the raw numbers, you're talking about 2 and 3 times what the turnout was in some of those same areas, and I guess that told the story. Now, if we could go and look at Queens, there's a pattern here. If we can put in the transit lines, this is a very interesting sort of a notion here. And look, if you look at where you see all of that green there in the middle of Queens, and that's Middle Village and Forest Hills and so forth. And there's a little bit of transit there, but not much. It's what we call a transit desert. Not a lot of mass transit there. It's they're driving cars out there, and it looks like car drivers versus subway riders was one of the breakdowns of how the vote turned out yesterday.
And you can filter that on the map. You can only show the election districts where there's a majority of renter households or a majority of owner households. And you can really see the difference, that the renters really correlate well with the subway routes, and those transit deserts are mainly homeowners, so not only car drivers, but also homeowners. And if you also filter by, let's say, how Trump did in 2024, there's a lot of overlap as well. And Cuomo did well in those areas. He was the de facto GOP candidate in a way, because that's how the pattern usually is, where GOP candidates do well in those areas. That's where he did some of his best.
Well, yeah, that's very striking, because this map also includes Curtis Sliwa's vote. It's just he didn't win any election districts. Election district is, more or less about 1,000 votes, 1,000 voters, registered voters. And it would be, orange or red or whatever color you picked. Yeah. And I think there were maybe a few in Staten Island, but I'm looking at this map and I'm not seeing any Curtis Sliwa election districts whatsoever.
No, and it's interesting, like if you look at Borough Park in Brooklyn, Sliwa did extremely well there in 2021, but almost nothing in this year. Cuomo did really well in those areas.
Right. They're in southern Brooklyn, right? From, sweeping all the way down into Bay Ridge. And that's Cuomo country. He's doing quite well, although not nearly enough to offset all of what was happening up there in Bed-Stuy and Williamsburg. Right?
That's right.
Very interesting. And here again, you say the subway lines also correlate with renters versus homeowners. We know that the DSA and the Mamdani campaign specifically targeted renters because of the importance of his campaign plank around freezing the rent. So they were going right at those voters, and I guess this proves that the strategy worked.
And you can see a lot of overlap, too, if you look at renters plus other characteristics, income, education level, ethnicity, things like that. So you can see really interesting patterns and understand, in a way, how the campaign pulled it out.
I didn't even want to try and do the sort of the ethnic mapping, because there are so many of the South Asian communities that the Mamdani campaign was relying on. They're all over the place. There's some in the Bronx, there's some in Queens, there's some in Manhattan even, and it becomes very hard to sort of piece it together. That was just one part of the coalition. But when it comes to income, is there a clear income split where above a certain level you're more likely to be pro-Cuomo, or was it just kind of across the board?
I don't remember what how that panned out, but you can see that very easily on the map, and it'll show you not only how they did this year, but also how that compares to 2021.
Right. Well, I mean, even looking at the Manhattan map, I think we all know where, when you're looking at Kips Bay, or you're looking at, you're looking at some of these ritzy areas, you know that correlates with income. Let's take a look at Staten Island and get a sense of what went on there. Very much Cuomo country, and in fact, he outdid Curtis Sliwa, who handily won Staten Island just 4 years ago.
That's right. And when you look back at how Cuomo has done when he ran for governor, he's done well on Staten Island. Like, he's one of the few Democrats that have won Staten Island, where most office holders are Republican, or a lot of them tend to be Republican.
Right.
So he's done well there in the past. And it's interesting because if you look at that area as well as, let's say, Southeast Queens and Southeast Brooklyn. So Southeast Queens and Southeast Brooklyn are really where solid Democratic strongholds are in mayor and governor and presidential elections.
Sure.
Just kind of the opposite of Staten Island. And Mamdani did okay in those areas. It's really Eric Adams' country. That's where Eric Adams' base of support was in 2021. So he, as the Democratic candidate, could have done much, much better. That's what you would expect.
Sure.
But Cuomo really ate into that support. I'm sure voters in those areas probably were thinking, well, should I vote for the Democrat, who maybe I have questions about because he's a Democratic Socialist, or should I vote for someone who I voted for in the past, even though he's not technically the Democratic candidate? And so you can see that and how that played out in the vote result.
Very interesting. Thank you very much, Steve Romolewski. These maps will be posted online, and I urge people to look at them, play with them, put in the variables. I didn't even have time to get into where you put in public housing, and you can see that there was kind of a strategy there as well. Thanks very much. We are going to take a short break now. When we come back, we'll talk more about the historic victory of Mamdani with my politics panel. Stay with us.
Throughout this campaign, I have worked hard to be accessible and transparent with New Yorkers. That same spirit will animate this transition and the city hall we build, because New Yorkers deserve a government that they can trust. And on January 1st, when our city celebrates the inauguration of a new administration, let us also celebrate a new era for our city, one that we all feel invested in and whose success we all work to achieve.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. That was Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani this morning, promising to deliver on the promise of his campaign when he takes office 57 days from now on January 1st. Joining me now to talk about the historic election is my weekly politics panel. Susan Kang is a political science professor at John Jay College and a leading member of the New York City Democratic Socialists of America. Joining us as he does every Wednesday is New York One political commentator Herson Barrero. Thank you for being here. And what was it like being at the victory party that you helped organize last night? Must have been a big deal for the DSA.
Yeah, it was basically at capacity, well before, an hour before the polls closed. And my job was to deal with the incredible deluge of press contacts from around the world just begging to be let in because they wanted to be there to see what the Democratic Socialists of America were going to think and say and react when the victory was announced.
Is there a template that the DSA is working from? I know there are not a lot of legislative successes that the organization has had here in New York over the last 10 years or so. But is there a template for executive power and what happens now in a transition and how to pursue your goals now that you've got this major job?
Yeah, there's no template, just like there wasn't a template until we won our legislative seats. So it's one of those make the road by walking situations. But the legislative model, right, of trying to figure out how to work in a movement, I think that provides some idea on how to work with a movement. And it's not just the DSA, of course, that has been actively involved in the campaign, a number of other organizations as well.
Right, right. I mean, what we're seeing, Herson, is that as the movement or the leader and representative and candidate of the movement gets closer to having to sort of exercise real power, some of their old habits are going to have to change, right? Like the long meetings, forming consensus and so forth. There's not necessarily going to be time for that.
Every person who wins an office like this has to make adjustments. And the campaigning, I think Zohran, or Mayor-elect Mamdani, will in fact realize that his time becomes more precious, and I'm hoping that people that were close to him, like Susan, first of all, Susan, congratulations. You're like a real socialist Democrat that I know and I like, and I know that you have a structure and you have a life. And so don't be afraid of socialists. This is the type of socialist. She's smart, she's committed to her thing, her beliefs, but also the community. So I know you. I wish she would run for office, but she looks at me dirty when I say that. You know, this is the type of person. When they talk about Zohran and being afraid, she's a socialist. And she's been on this table. She's acted responsibly in terms of what she believes, but then she deals with issues. I'm not trying to sell her that, I'm going to be nicer to her.
Let me plug my You Decide podcast, because we had a nice long talk, and it's still up online. Getting thousands and thousands of views, by the way.
Bro, you got to listen to people that think differently from you and from a younger person. But I got to tell you that what I like about Zohran so far, and I would hope that we all give him, including the media, he really needs a honeymoon. He needs a period of time that we respect him putting this together. I like the way, how he got up this morning. He was here with Pat Kiernan in the morning. He went to do a show. He didn't go to a subway station. He's broken the mold. He put together a team of very capable, I mean, that transition team was like, what? When did this guy think about this? This is my personal impression. I don't believe in what he believes in, but I'm not afraid of him. I'm afraid of the criminal in chief, the convicted felon we have in Washington. I watched the whole thing. I know you're going to move this rapidly, so I'll take it back. Susan has much more to say from the inside. But I got to tell you, watching for the first time a party that nobody gave, or a movement, and this is a movement, the people, and I'm sure they're going to look for other offices. I'm down to see what they do in 2026. I expect a candidate to go against the governor, run for governor. Having said that, Errol, I think that we need to give them a chance. We can't be that judgmental. The media has to take it easy. They gave him a break during the campaign. I've always felt that, but I'm glad we have a new face. It's a new era. We're part of it. I'm glad I'm alive to see it.
He's on his way down to Somos, by the way, which
is a mistake. You waste your time there. You waste your time there.
The transition has begun. Let's listen to an excerpt from last night's speech. This is, kind of the new politics, and we'll see if it's going to go from being simply words in a speech to becoming policy. Let's listen.
If tonight teaches us anything, it is that convention has held us back. We have bowed at the altar of caution, and we have paid a mighty price. Too many working people cannot recognize themselves in our party. And too many among us have turned to the right for answers to why they've been left behind. We will leave mediocrity in our past. No longer will we have to open a history book for proof that Democrats can dare to be great.
I didn't like the speech. I thought this isn't the person that we saw on the campaign trail. It shocked me. I hear that some other national commentator said so on CNN.
Van Jones, yeah.
Van Jones, because I wasn't watching. I was watching the speech, and I'm going to tell you, I said, this isn't the same guy. Maybe I didn't pay attention to the campaign. I didn't like the tone.
Well, I mean, this is why people were following him, right? This is why he had tens of thousands of people knocking on doors.
I mean, I don't quite understand why you didn't like the speech. I love the speech. I thought that it was great because he was speaking towards how do we move forward. This was a really divisive, I thought really nasty, not so much from Mamdani's side, but a campaign, this mayoral campaign. And he's trying to say, how do we build this community back together? Because that's one of his foundations, that it's a New York for everyone. He says over and over again, I'm a mayor for everyone, even if you don't like me, even if I didn't earn your vote. And now he's saying, I've got the path ahead of me to try to earn everyone's trust and implement the policies I've said I would.
Mm-hmm. But there's still people who don't know him, Errol. And I didn't like, for example, the poking of the bear to talking to Trump that way. I thought that was uncalled for because the guy's going to come
What's
after
that going to do? Make him mad?
No. But this is a guy. You got to realize who you're facing. This is a guy that doesn't need any poking. He's already, even before he gets up and has breakfast, he's at 2 o'clock in the morning already fighting with people and has been sued 5 times and he doesn't care. Yeah. I just think it's just poking the bear. He doesn't need it. He needs to unite the city and convince people.
The bear's coming. You might as well take a shot at it.
I don't know.
Right?
I didn't like it.
Before he gets on top of you. Let's take a short break. We've got more to talk about with this panel. We'll do that in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
This campaign was necessary to make that point. a caution flag that we are heading down a dangerous, dangerous road. Well, we made that point, and they heard us, and we will hold them to it.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. I'm once again joined by my politics panel, Professor Susan Kang and our own Herson Barrero. That was a pretty angry speech for a concession, right? And nowhere along the way did he actually contact Mamdani and concede.
Right. And it was actually kind of shocking. I couldn't believe how aggressive, how angry, how energetic it was. And once again, I would love for Cuomo to tell me how Zohran Mamdani in any way discussed things that was hateful or divisive. He keeps on saying that his mere presence or someone who's critical of Israel is necessarily hateful. But the crowd also did not really respond to anything he said about, you know, all of our diversity or no hatreds will be tolerated at all. Like, it just wasn't. I don't know what he's trying to say. I know that he's calculating his next move.
He conceded to the people that actually stuck with him, who are Democrats and voted for him as an independent. I think that you're missing the boat here, and I think the campaign is over. And this is a guy who was humiliated because of, by the way, if you look, I go back, you can't relive everything else, but you got to take a look at ranked choice voting and how they united against this one guy, how he still got 440,000 votes to the 330 that Mamdani got, and he wouldn't have been able to beat him without ranked choice voting, and the very effective, well-run campaign of don't rank Cuomo. So let's put that aside. He was talking to his people. And by the way, maybe you were listening to another concession speech, but when they started booing, he stopped them. Mamdani. But this is Andrew Cuomo. I can't understand, Susan, because you guys have been criticizing everything that he's done, bringing out stuff that he was accused of, never proven anything on different subjects, the nursing homes, the allegation of the sexual harassment and what have you. The problem is that at some point he is who he is. So what do you expect him to be, Zohran? So come on now.
Well, no. Here's what I heard in all of this, and why I think Mamdani was as, you know, sort of forward and in some ways aggressive in his own speech, is that the Muslim community has put up with slights, insults, and outright racism, searches, intrusive surveillance, outright attacks on the street for like 20 years without a champion to say this is going to stop today, up until now. And Mamdani has said no more. This is going to stop. The crazy videos that came out, one of which was created by the Cuomo campaign, not the outside group, the Cuomo campaign, all of this AI-generated crazy racist kind of stuff, you know, was all just put out there. Nowhere has anyone apologized for any of that, and it's going to be up to all of the rest of us to try and bring this back together.
That right-wing radio host that he talked to, who joked that Zohran would cheer another 9/11, and Cuomo didn't say no.
That guy's slime. That guy is.
But Cuomo didn't say I wouldn't go that far. He just said, well, that's another problem. So he doesn't denounce.
He trafficked in absolute poison.
Right, and so young people. I don't
and
think
now he gets to walk away, and
the
poison is still here.
Yeah, so he claimed that Zohran Mamdani was making people unsafe, but I would argue that Cuomo's hateful, divisive rhetoric made everybody less safe.
I'm hearing something that bothers me here. I got to tell from both of you, because he still got an inordinate amount of votes as an independent who got beaten by a person that's right. I mean, he went, it was a beating, second beating he gets from this kid who was unknown. But there are New Yorkers there who watch his show, Errol, who actually voted for him.
And
you got to respect that.
I'd like to push back on that a little bit, which I think, I spoke to voters who said, I like Mamdani, I want to vote for him, but I am worried about either Trump is going to punish the city or he's not experienced enough. And so they're voting for Cuomo out of fear. And Cuomo knew that his strongest lane was to terrify voters. So I think there's a lot more support out there for Mamdani and his policies than his votes suggest.
Well, you know what? And here's the real bottom line is, you know, everybody said what they said.
Exactly.
Tens of millions of dollars were spent. We put it to a vote. One guy got more votes than everybody else combined, and that's the end of the discussion as far as who will take the office. Let's go out with one last quote from the speech last night. Mamdani announcing that a new age of pro-immigrant politics is going to be installed at City Hall.
New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants. And
as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
That's a good one.
That is going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks so much for watching and have a great evening. We'll see you next time inside City Hall.